Hey, it's Captain Matt from Boater Secret Weapon, and for National Safe Boating Week, today we're talking about distress signals. So you're out on the water and something goes terribly wrong. There's a couple of things that you may need depending on the situation to get help. Obviously, we've got the VHF radio, which is your lifeline to help in most situations. We've got a complete video coming up on these shortly, so stay tuned for that. But depending on if you're during the day or at night will depend on the type of signals that you need and where you are. So if you have day issues, you can have something like a flare. Now these are smoke flares. They're also approved for day and night usage, so they work for the 3 unexpired flares that you need on your boat when you're operating at the coast of the Great Lakes. But these are going to give a visible smoke signal that you can see during the day. You can also have a little mirror that you keep in your safety kit, in your first aid kit, in the glove box, in your ditch bag is another good place to have one of those if you're operating offshore. But that's going to allow you to signal people with a bright stroke of light. They're going to get blinded and they're going to notice you. The other thing you have is you just have this signal right here where you're waving your hands above your head in a way to say, hey, I need help. If you have an orange flag, you can use the orange flag to do that as well. Those are going to be your visual signals that you need during the day. If you're in a distress situation and you need help, maybe it's as simple as you ran out of fuel or your boat won't crank up. Or maybe it's as difficult as, hey, your boat's taking on water and it's going down. Use those signals to bring somebody to help. Now, if you're boating at night, you may want to use something more like a flare. The gun is going to give you access to fire way up in the air if you're offshore in the evening. These will come in handy because they also have ignitable flare. Not only is it going to smoke, but it's also going to be a very, very bright light. Another thing that can be helpful is a sound making device like this whistle. Blowing this during the day or night can also bring that assistance that you need. Some other things that may be helpful, especially if you're operating offshore, is an emergency locator beacon, an EPIRB, which is actually not only going to have a light on it traditionally, but it's also going to send out a distress signal to the Coast Guard, to everybody that's monitoring channel 16 on their VHF radio, and that's going to give them your specific GPS coordinates. It's something that if you operate offshore consistently, I think investing in that EPIRB makes a lot of sense for that just in case situation. It truly could be a lifesaver. A couple of things to know if you are going to go with the EPIRB. One, make sure that you register those. You can register the EPIRB so it comes back to you and you can link it to your vessel. That way they know exactly what boat you're looking for. They can be automatic. If they get wet, they're automatically going to signal, or manual, that if they're removed from their holder or manually turned on, that's going to send out the distress signal. That distress signal, it's going to go for about 48 hours or more. That means that no matter what happens, they're going to have a signal saying, hey, this is where things went bad, and then that beacon is going to float in the water following the same path that you and the debris will, so it's going to speed up the recovery time. If they do need to find you, that's going to make it much easier. They got very specific GPS coordinates of where that's at and where it's been, and they can do their search much easier. They also have the personal locator beacons, which you can clip to your life vest with the sound making device. And that's going to have a visible light. So if you do have to leave the vessel, it's going to have a visible light. It's also, you've got your whistle, so you can, if somebody comes near, you can blow, because now you've gone from a big giant vessel that's a little easier to see to now you're just this head that's bobbing in the water. So you've got a strobe with your personal locator beacon. You've got your whistle that you can make a sound with. And if you have your EPIRB, that's going to be in the general vicinity. So those signals, it's kind of planning for the worst. But if you don't have them, one, you're out of compliance and you could have a very expensive ticket on your way when you're operating in the environments that require them. But two, it truly could be the difference between life and death. So make sure you have them, make sure they're up to date, make sure that you get the appropriate equipment for the style of boating, where you do your boating, and that you're equipped for the worst case to avoid any devastating situations. We'll see you in the next one.